The church that God is calling us to be. The church that God is calling us to be. Today we're starting this new sermon series, and in it we'll be going over a number of different themes that are vital and crucial with our main objective, our hope, our aim is to try and discern the direction that we believe God is leading our church. Where do we see our congregation moving to? And the reality is that our congregation isn't what it used to be 5, 10, 15 years ago. A lot has changed. People have grown, people have gone, people have come. Our community isn't what it used to be either. Development has increased, population has shifted, demographics have changed a little, interest, plans, and problems are more than ever. We all know this. It's a basic rule of life. It's a guarantee, whether you like it or not, whether we fight it or not, whether we accept it or not. Change is inevitable. It comes whether you're ready or not, which is why it's so important for any community, may it be an organization, may it be a nonprofit or a business or an interest group, whether it be in the public sector or the private sector, to always revisit its mission statement, to retune itself with its purpose, so it knows where to go, so it knows what to do, so it understands its gifts and its talents, so it understands its skills and its resources, so it understands the problems that it faces and the setbacks that come with it. And then they can mark out some plan for where to go. So they can mark out some plan for what to do. And that's what we hope to do here. It's a tall task, I know. But we hope to gain insights and basic tools for trying to figure out where we see our church going into the future. What is this church that God is calling us to be? And as much as I would like to take credit for this series, it didn't come out of my own intuition. It's not something that I intentionally sought out to launch this sermon series. It's a sermon series that actually was prompted by a donation that we received. Some of you might know in December of 2020, almost a year now, we were blessed with a $35,000 donation from the Kosasa Foundation, who are the grandkids and great grandkids of Reverend Peter Goto. Winnie's actually going to be giving a presentation about this donation after worship today. But as we were trying to decide on what we wanted to do with this donation, we ran into a lot of struggles. We all wanted to carry out our mission. We all wanted to fulfill our purpose. We all wanted to live out our calling, but we weren't quite sure what that was in the here and now. I mean, we all had our own ideas, and ideas we had a lot. Let's start this, let's launch this, let's do this, let's fund this, let's begin this. The list went on, and we all kind of realized that in order to figure out what to do with this donation, we needed to figure out what to do with us. We needed to figure out who we are and what God is calling us to do if we'll ever be able to be real stewards of all that God has blessed us with. And if we never understand our purpose, we can never truly realize our potential. If we never figure out our why we're here in this place with these people at this time, then we'll never figure out our way. And we'll continue to do the same things every single day and every single Sunday until none of this is left for us to do. And so our administrative board decided that the time was now. Like, let's not wait any longer. If we're going to do this, let's do this now. And so we're launching this sermon series. And at the end of the 5 weeks, we're going to have a vision meeting, which is a space for all of us, everyone, to join in on this conversation and to share our thoughts on where we believe God is calling our church. Where do we want our church to be in 5, 10 years from now? What direction do we want to head in? What do we want to do with our church? Because we can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. And so we have to start talking about crossing this bridge now before it reaches here. And we're about to reach it pretty soon. And I also want to add that my hope in this series is not only to speak to our congregation as a community or as a whole, but I also want to speak to each of us on a personal level. This time of transition, of coming to the threshold between different stages or different seasons in life, of facing reality and coming to grips with the life that we are living right now, isn't something that's just unique to the life of the church. I mean, we all have to do this in our own lives at some point. For some of us, we might be in this transitional season right now. If COVID-19 hasn't moved or our lives to the point of reassessing, rethinking, and redoing or rededicating our lives and moving things around, then our own life experiences have done that for us. Whether it be a loss in our lives, whether it be a challenge or a struggle in our lives, whether it be a setback or a disability in our lives, whatever it may be, God is always speaking to us. And he's calling us out from bondage to freedom, from pain to praise, from test to testimony, from curse to cure, from meaning to mission. When you find out what your meaning of your life is as a person, as a business, or as a church, only then can you truly begin living out your mission. And I know some of us here aren't trying to search for life's deep meaning or the mission for your life at this point or this stage in your life. But as a church today and for these next few weeks, we are. And so this should matter to all of us because this is all of our church. We're looking for our mission in the here and now because without it, our direction is nowhere. And so each week we're going to be going over one theme that is hopefully going to help us discern the church that God is calling us to be. And today we're starting our talk by talking about mission. We're talking about mission. Before we go any further, I want to give a lucky person in the audience a moment in the spotlight. This is your chance to finally make it onto the big screen, to be the superstar that you always dreamed of. If you can, I invite you to unmute yourself. For anybody out there that can tell me what is our church's mission? Anyone out there who can share with me Kahalu'u United Methodist Church's mission?
Peace with justice.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Peace with justice. Spread peace with justice.
Okay, peace and justice is in there. Yep. Peace and justice. Anybody want to add to that?
2 points to Gryffindor.
Yes, yes. No, if you know it by heart or by mind, our church's mission, without having to look anywhere, Kahalu'u United Methodist Church's mission. It's the first slide in our PowerPoint every morning, and I've been kind of intentional about sharing it every morning for this leading up to this month so that we can kind of look at it. But I know that Carol's altar decorations are always like just mind-blowing, so we kind of forget of our mission the moment we see her decorations. But anyone out there know, Jamie shared the second portion of it, peace and justice.
It's changed over the last decade. So now it reads, grow into the image of Jesus Christ, serve God, build a community of peace and justice, as Jamie said.
Yes, amen. Yeah, so we're gonna have to split the superstardom this morning.
Yes, she got to it faster than I did. I almost got there on my phone. I was just there when yes, Pastor Flora found it first.
I didn't Google it. I didn't look it up.
Yeah, that's our mission.
Right, Jamie gets the points for knowing it by heart.
Yes, that's our mission, folks. The short two-liner is our church's purpose. It's our mission to grow into the image of Jesus Christ and to serve God, building a community of peace and justice. That's our mission. But what exactly is a mission, right? For one, it's a word with so many meanings, a word that gets thrown around a lot in our churches, a word that turns some people off from the moment that they hear it. But what exactly does this word mean? I like this definition that I found as I was getting ready for this sermon this morning. It says the mission is the shared intention that provides the motivating force that must be present to gather and sustain any real community of people. It's the shared intention that motivates and sustains people. So there's a group of people who want to do something. They have this shared intention, and it's this shared intention that motivates and it sustains them. It's their mission. Just because people meet together doesn't mean that they have a mission, right? The strangers who ride the bus together every day to and from work are not a community, even though they spend a couple of hours a day together. But you see, if the bus were to get stuck in some snow, all of a sudden the same people become a kind of community. They all have to get out of the bus to lighten the load. Some of them may have to organize to scoop the snow away from the wheels, while others push from the front of the bus as the driver tries to back out. What happens is that all of a sudden they discovered this shared intent. They all want the same thing done, to free the bus. And it's this shared intention that motivates them to accomplish something together. They went from being ordinary people sitting together in a bus to a community of people working together to free the bus. They all have the same intention. It motivates them towards a certain goal. It's a mission. We often see this with natural disasters where suddenly people express this amazing sense of community. The disaster, no matter how devastating it was, gave people a shared intention. And that's what made a bunch of people a community. You see, every functional community has a mission statement. Soap selling organizations, car companies, insurance companies, phone companies, they all have mission statements. And so do churches. Churches that are thriving right now are all driven by this compelling, clear sense of its mission. You were to ask them what their mission is, I'm pretty sure these thriving churches will be able to tell you right off the bat, our mission is this, which is so much more than just a clever statement or a phrase. It's not just a marketing tool to gather people. It's this uniting purpose. It's something that we're all passionate about doing that resides in the life of every person in the church. And so we do what we're all passionate about together. A church without a mission is like a car without fuel. It's a doorstop. It's a lump, a useless hunk of stuff that just requires upkeeping, but it produces no output. But a real mission, one that inspires the people touched by it to devote their money and their time and their mastery to it, is inspired. It's not just something that we do because we have to do it. It's something that we all want to do because we're inspired to do it. Not just a few of us, not just some of us, but every single person in the church shares this inspiration. Our denomination has a shared intention. It has a mission. We all know what this mission is, right? To make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. This is the underlying driving purpose for the United Methodist Church. It's our mission. It's not the mission of the public school. It's not the mission of Microsoft. It's not the mission of Nike. It's not the mission of Google. It's our mission. When we look at our United Methodist mission, when we think of why we're here, why we're still functioning, two things come to mind. We're here to be more like Jesus, loving, kind, patient, forgiving, generous. And second, to build God's kingdom of peace and love, of justice and equality in our lives and in our communities right now. That is why our denomination exists. That's our mission. That's what we feel inspired to do together. That's our purpose. That's who we are as United Methodists. That's who we want to be. That's our calling. That's what we're called to do, to reflect Christ in our lives and out in our communities. The question we want to ask ourselves as we think about our mission is, what do the people in our church do? What do the people in our church do? Why do we exist? What's our reason for being here? Are we just a library of local history? Are we here to occupy a piece of land that we've held on to for years? Are we here to meet once or twice a week and then go home our own very ways afterwards? Why do we exist? For the United Methodist Church, the answer to the question, why do we exist, is simple: to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. But today in our local church, I ask, why does Kahaluu United Methodist Church exist? What do the people in Kahaluu United Methodist Church do? If somebody were to ask you that question outside of our church, what would be your answer to that? Do we have a purpose for existing, or are we just a car without fuel, a doorstop, a lump, a useless hunk of stuff that just requires upkeep, that produces no output? I like to think that we're not. What is it that when we're thinking about this, our mission, why are we here? What's our shared intention? What is everybody here inspired to do? What are we passionate about doing that gives us a reason, a purpose, a calling for existing? And the answer to this question, and to be able to do this work, as challenging, as stressful as it is, brings us to this reminder that a church's mission begins with God, which is good news. When your life or the life of your church is in a place of maybe disorder or chaos, when the starting point of your yearning for purpose and your searching for direction begins in a little bit of a mess, when we haven't seen a new member in years, we haven't had a baptism in probably even longer, when our membership hasn't increased like it used to, when vitality and growth hasn't been our reality for some time now, it's good to know that our mission doesn't begin with me. It's comforting to know that we aren't the engine that's moving all of this along, that we aren't carrying the burdens and facing the struggles alone. Mission, for all of its complicated methods and definitions, begins with God. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. What better place to root our start, our search for purpose and mission, to rethink a new beginning than in the beginning of beginnings? In the beginning, it was without void, without form. It was empty. It was void. It was marked by darkness. And I want to encourage us, because as we look at a new beginning for our church, it's easy for us to look at where we're at and what we're working with, and tell ourselves that we've been talking about growing this church for some years now and still nothing. It's easy to tell ourselves that we don't have much resources, that we don't have much people. If we're not careful, we may be discouraged in trying to think of a new inspired vision for our church, because we're looking at little resources. We're looking at stuff and it's not looking good. It isn't filled with promise. It doesn't look filled with opportunity. But the word of God this morning tells us that your beginning may be filled without form. It may be empty. It may be in darkness, but that's okay, because that's exactly the kind of canvas that God paints on. It's okay because that's exactly the kind of backdrop that God draws on. It's okay because all new beginnings begin with God. It begins with God taking what seems void, what seems dark and hopeless, and creating new life. Church, no matter how hopeless our starting point may be, for some of us, it's not hopeless. For some that I've spoken to, it seems that way. No matter how challenging our current situation may be, even if it's an uphill battle with no prospects in sight, our starting point may be in the deepest valleys or in the driest deserts. But our efforts, our hope, our mission begins with God. Everything that we're going to be talking about these next few weeks and hopefully building on as we dream big, a new vision for our church, begins with God. Our mission, our vision, our value, our purpose, who we are and who we feel called to be, what we're doing and what we feel called to do, why we're here and why we will stay, all begins with God.